Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So I want to talk today about plumbers, the value of plumbers. And I started doing some research and found out a lot of things I didn't know. And I wanted to sort of give them their credit because they are a very strong component of our society. And it's time that we start bringing honor back to certain jobs that get undershadowed because of flashier people, celebrities, people who don't really have as much value get the limelight, but the common man is often overlooked. So I thought, let's thank Allah for plumbers by giving them their due time on my channel. So something I learned was that there's different types of plumbers. Whenever someone used to mention a plumber, I used to just think of the guy who comes to your home and fixes the sink and stuff like that. But actually, there's residential, commercial, new construction, service, union, non-union, and industrial. And it's brilliant because what I liked about this, it just showed me how many industries really depend on the competence of a good plumber. And when you see the residential, it's clear because that touches us in our everyday lives. That touches us because if you don't have water running in your sink, you'll see how fast dishes pile up. If you're not able to shower, you feel that immediately. And for new moms, when you want to bathe your baby, that's really important. Or for us to do wudu, right? Or to do ghusl. It's essential that we have some water, and potable water at that. Commercial was also something to really think about, because I was like, wow, that is like restaurants, some would argue restaurants, and then industrial is like big factories, but also commercials, office buildings. And when you take a step back and pause and think about how hospitals really rely on competent plumbers to fix issues and then install. And the non-unions are people who have their own, essentially. And then union is like, there's a plumbers union. I didn't know that. And so I was just really surprised. And new construction, this one hit home because I've been walking past construction sites, and I was really inspired by these welders. These guys are just up there, and it looks so high up, and you're like, that's crazy. And so in the construction sites, when a building's being built, there's plumbers there working with everyone, with the contractors. And if someone makes a mistake, it can cost thousands. And so the competence of them is so important. And so there was another point of building versus fixing. So fixing problems or building the initial setup. And a plumber, they can choose to just be fixers, and they can choose to just be installers. And then there's those who obviously do both. And I would assume that a good plumber knows how to do both. But different job sites, as they mentioned, new construction here, that's like you're putting stuff in. You know, brand new urinals, brand new toilets, brand new sinks, fittings, and then knowing further all the names of all that stuff. That's what's wild. You just look at all the names for the bolts and the pipings and all that stuff. That's crazy. That's so many different names, and they all look so similar, but they're different. And in residential and commercial, there's different items. To install stuff like that in a hospital is different than if you're working in an apartment. Or if you're working in a slaughterhouse, you really need to make sure their water is good. In even a bakery, like, everything has to be on point. And when you have leaky faucets and stuff like that, it's so important to have a good plumber who knows what he's doing. And a good plumber who snakes your drain when it clogs, because, you know, us ladies, our hair clogs the drain, and they gotta come fix it. And without them, we would be standing in a bathtub filled with water that's all putrid. Okay, so and then I wrote some notes about residential versus commercial. Residential plumbing is plumbing in your home, both the building and servicing of it, your sewer, your water, and even natural gas. I had no idea that plumbers had anything to do with natural gas. I don't really know what natural gas is. I just know that there's a stove, it's a gas stove, there it is. I mean, I don't know that stuff. But plumbers deal a lot with the sewer, and I thought plumbers just deal with the toilet and that's it, right? But no, they gotta know stuff. And then commercial is one huge water main with multiple buildings. Can have multiple buildings. It's a large sewer line, large site job, hospital, etc. So if you look at pictures of what those large water main looks like, that's intense. That's a pretty important job. And they're around feces a lot and urine and the smell. Wow. And if you think about how these men do these back-breaking jobs in heat, in the cold, they just are constantly working, trying to do their best to get things functioning. And they maintain our water heaters so that we can even have hot water. And so we shouldn't underestimate their value. And when you hear women say, like Cher has a famous line. Like, someone asked her, like, do you need a man or do we need men? And she was like, basically, like, scoffed at the idea. Or you'll hear a lot of feminists say, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. And this is very disgusting. And they say, we can just hire a man to do it. I don't need a man in my relationship status to do it. But what they're saying is they can go out and get a job and then pay for it themselves. When other women will argue that you need your man to do it or you have to be able to afford someone to do it. But either way, you need a man. You need a man to pay the bill for the plumber, or you need a man to come and do the plumbing. Both ways you square it. And I did see a retarded ad that showed like a really pretty model woman doing plumbing, which kind of made me laugh. Because it's like, we mamas deal with poop with our children, right? Your newborn, before potty training. And after that, I highly doubt very many women want to deal with strangers' poo and urine. And sure, they can work in the office and stuff, but it's a dirty job that requires physical strength. And women who have worked in that industry, they're often very butch. They don't look like some type of model. No offense, I'm just saying. Personality-wise, they don't seem to go for that kind of stuff. Okay. And then, another note I had here was just sewer, water, and gas having to handle old urinals and handle crystallization. So, the disgustingness of a man having to move a pissy old urinal and there's like these piss crystals, that's disgusting. I would not want to do that. Bathrooms are already horrendous. And even if they're super clean, it's just get in, get out. It's gross, especially gas station bathrooms. Like it's just gnarly. And men's bathrooms are constantly smelling of piss. It's really disgusting. So those poor plumbers having to go in there and handle that, it's really rough. And so we can't underestimate how they keep the bathrooms functioning. I remember how someone did an expose in India, just how many people poop outside, and their feces spread so many diseases, and it's a big problem. It's a big problem when people refuse to use the more sanitary way of disposing of waste and just defecate in the street. And in liberal San Francisco, because liberals have no problem with homeless people being outside, they defecate as well. Meanwhile, they're letting homeless people defecate outside, but during lockdowns, they wouldn't let people like me go take a math class if we didn't have a jab. Even if we sat 6 feet apart, wore a mask, had the fan on, and the classroom door open, I couldn't be there because I was a health risk. But a homeless person mumbling to themselves, high on meth, taking a dump on the corner, that's not a problem. And you have to be compassionate and let them do that. So, examine how the plumbers get feces out of their communities. There's a lot of diseases that come from human waste. And so having the stomach to endure the smell is, hard. And what's fascinating is some men will say they can't handle their woman giving birth. So think how weak those men are, and then think about how strong a plumber is. Like, a husband can see the blood of his woman and know that a baby's coming and then totally be fine. Like, not squeamish at all. Doesn't matter if she farts or whatever. A plumber has to have an even stronger stomach because he's dealing with strangers' poop, vomit, period blood, whatever else is going down there. He's got to do the job good. He can't just do it all crappy and dip out. Like, he's got to finish the job and do it well. And because of him having a strong stomach and really showing these masculine traits of finishing something you start and not half-assing it, we have the beauty we have. A lot of women will have a very beautiful hot tub. They'll have a very elegant bathtub or a stunning walk-in shower. And all that was set up by a man, usually. It's 98% is the latest data of how many Americans do plumbing who are male. Okay? And for a woman, especially a celebrity, right? They sit there and say, like, men don't matter. Or for people to just idolize finance bros who trade Bitcoin and not even think about the plumbers who have made everything clean around them. It just is shocking. And I have mad respect for the plumbers, even more so now reading everything that they do. Plumbing is a trade, so I wanted to make that note. Not everyone knows that. Plumbers protect the health of the nation by knowing about cross connections. And if they don't handle the cross connections right, that can spread diseases because it mixes potable water with non-potable water. I didn't know that. So if you hire a really cheap moron to be your plumber, he's an ignoramus, he doesn't know what he's doing, and he screws up, that can spread disease when those two waters mix. And just recently, if you look it up, I was going to share it on the community tab, but I just couldn't get around to it. There was a parasite recently in the water, and not in California, but there was just a case of parasites being in the water. So America does struggle with clean water. Flint, Michigan, one of the most prime examples. So we have money to give to Israel to massacre people, and we have money to give to Ukraine to do a proxy war, and we have money to hoorah fight with Iran, but we don't have money to really pay plumbers to fix some issues going on with the water problems. So our people get poisoned while they get taxed to go massacre people abroad. And so our own politicians don't even respect our plumbers or the nations who depend upon clean water. Even though the post politicians, they can afford in their private residences the best plumbers and put all these type of filters and you name it. They could take showers with bottled water if they wanted to. They see us as peons, and so they get the protected water while we don't. So when you see a plumber and you know he's a good guy, have mad respect for him. It's important to treat plumbers with respect. And if your son wants to be a plumber, don't look down on him just because he doesn't want to be driving a Bugatti or with whores on a yacht or some other ridiculous field. Being a plumber is an honorable position because you literally are saving lives. Plumbers save lives because they help water get to where it has to be, and they help waste fluid get out of there. Very important. Reminds me of the Roman aqueducts, like really trying to make sure. If you look in India, they got the Ganges River. They call it holy, but it's so putrid. It's filled with feces and all kinds of nasty stuff. A Hindu dude, went out there, scooped up some water. You have to look this up, and because there's a video of it, and he drank out of it in the hospital, very sick. So you have to know that public toilets sinks, showers, bathtubs, a hospital having the right setup is all because of plumbers. Think about that. It's fascinating. You like to take a nice hot long shower with good water pressure? Plumber made that happen. Water is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the plumber is a great serviceman. He does so much. I also saw this term called backflow, is when contaminated water has reverse flow and entered the clean water lines. I saw this at a restaurant I worked at, and it was pretty terrifying because of how it came up, and it was so stinky. And this was at a restaurant, and it took forever for it to get fixed, and they had to close. And I'm thankful that I didn't have to step in the water, because as it started coming up, they're like, hey, shut it down. Everybody has to go home. Call the maintenance guys. We got to fix this, And we all had to do our cash outs and get the heck out of there. But it's so stinky. So stinky. And it has a lot of bacteria. A lot of bacteria. Also, plumbers install and maintain repair pipes, valves, fittings, drainage system, and fixtures. So these men help women to actually be able to express their beauty. Okay, so women are wearing a lot of makeup. Okay, you gotta wash that off. Who allowed that water to get to you? Who set up the sink? It was the plumber. Okay? Without him, you wouldn't be able to really do much. And you'd be pouring water into your hands, and it would take forever. And you'd have to go outside to some water source and bring it in. Those water pipes bring it from one place to another into your home. And you have to be grateful to men for doing that. Every time you have your period, think about how more sanitary we can be now. We don't have to just stuff a rag by our vaginas and just bleed all over our clothes. Some women have a very heavy flow. And we now can sit on the toilet, flush the blood away, wash our hands. We can be way more clean and in comfort. So while your husband is working and you get to stay home and have some nice snacks and relax in peace with air conditioning, you have water because a plumber installed that system. So your husband pays the bills, he's able to buy you treats, you're able to relax, and a man installed the plumbing, as well as the electricians are majority male, and the men who even built the house you lived in. All of that because of men. So we must not forget, men do matter in our society, and a plumber deserves a wife. Okay? If all the women only went to rich men, a lot would be left out, and there is nothing dishonorable about marrying a hard-working, blue-collar tradesman. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? And a man who has such skills is always going to have work. A lot of people got laid off in their fancy pants jobs that didn't really have too much meeting during the lockdown, but people always will need a plumber. So your man will always have work. Okay? You want to marry a rapper or something, what goes up must come down. Plumber, steady work. Steady work. Okay, especially if they're good. Word of mouth travels. Okay, and the drainage is so important. Getting stinky stuff out. So water heaters, sinks, toilets. The water heater, I've had to take showers many times with cold water. I can't tell you how horrible it is. It's totally different when you're Joe Rogan and you're high on weed and DMT and you go and jump in a bathtub of ice water and then you get out and you're like, yeah bro, I'm gonna share this on Instagram. Okay. Doing a cold ice plunge is different than having to be a woman with long hair, thick hair, and having to wash yourself properly in freezing cold water. It's not that great, okay? And you don't really feel very clean after. Now, when you're a woman, you take a hot shower and you finish with cold water to close your pores up. That's very relaxing. You go swimming in a hot tub. The water's warm. You go swimming in a regular pool, it's cold. You go swimming in the ocean, it's cold. But no one can deny the wonderfulness of a hot shower, especially a mom going through postpartum depression or her first shower back home from the hospital. That warm water is super relaxing. We all can testify to that, okay? So, thank the men, the male plumbers, for doing the job of maintaining your water heater. I don't know anything about the water heater. I just seen in movies where it bursts and it floods the basement. But what's really cool is when you analyze just how important the water heater is for basic things. And if we didn't have that, we'd have to boil, let it sit. It'd be so much harder to do that. And man, a high pressure shower head with hot water, who doesn't love that? Alright, and a sink, I can't describe how wonderful that is. You should just be able to know that without me having to state it. All the things we do in the sink, especially washing dishes. I mean, imagine if you couldn't and you just had to just eat off of paper plates forever and have wooden utensils that you can dispose of after. I mean, how many diseases are prevented because of plumbers facilitating the transport of water? Okay, so we can be more clean. How many men would smell worse if they couldn't take a shower, including women? 3-4 days no shower. Would you even be attracted to that person after a while? You wouldn't want to have intimacy. The smell would be horrible. I mean, the amount of acne and skin problems you would get, scalp problems, it would be huge, okay? It's not a fun thing to not have access to water you can bathe in, cook with, and stuff like that. Plumbers, make it happen. I also learned a drainage system is piping that conveys liquid waste, sewage, rainwater, etc. into the sewer system or septic tank. It essentially removes wastewater. It keeps sewer gases out of the building. Now, that was a cool thing to see how that's all done. So a plumber, they work with the drainage system. They're all putting in those pipes, how to connect them, where should they go. And when there's a problem, they're fixing it, and it's remarkable. So sure, you could have clean water, but if you don't have the way to drain out the dirty water, what's going to happen here? Okay, think of all the apartments. Think of if the water's turned off right now, what are you going to do? You would see people turn on each other. Some people might just sit there and wither away. But if you have a survival instinct, you're not just going to watch your newborn fade away. Women have to drink water in order to make milk. Okay? Are you going to watch your milk supply dry up and by extension your baby's health? Women need water to make their formula. Think about it. Think a plumber. Think a plumber. How many restaurants? Think about how all their employees need a plumber. The restaurants need the sinks to wash things. Everything. Look at the vast network. Hospitals, restaurants, homes. All because of a plumber was installing things right and repairing things. Done by men. And someone who's so important to the society deserves a good wife who will care for him and be loyal and not just leave him because he doesn't have a Bugatti or can't afford a boob job or some ridiculous vain thing. Now, I learned about sewer gas. Sewer gas, it's noxious. It can make you pass out. And it happens sometimes when the wax ring around your toilet is failing. And I've smelled that in some bathrooms where it's just this permanent stench. And it's really strong. And it's not just because people are defecating and urine sitting and men are pissing on the walls. I mean, they're quite filthy. That's why we don't want men in dresses in our female bathrooms. Because men, sorry, but their piss is just everywhere when it splashes in the toilet. You know, I'm going off on a tangent, but the sewage smell is deadly. And a plumber, because it can make you go unconscious. A plumber tries to make sure that don't happen. So you're a woman, you think you're all that, you're arrogant, you're boastful. Hey, you know what? I don't need no man. But then you go into a bathroom and there's sewer gas. Who's gonna fix that for you? The plumber. You're arrogant little cunt in your college class. When that building was being built, plumbers worked with everyone to make all of that piping possible. You go into the bathroom, take your selfie with your duck lips and your butt angle. Okay, that sink you just used, that toilet you just used, put there by a man. The patriarchy. The men made that possible. And you should respect them and honor them. Again, 98%. 98%. So, those were some things that I learned about plumbers. And there was a lot to learn, but I didn't want to go into like the names of stuff, but if you want, you can go and just look at the complexities. What a maze. That's so much work. So much work. I don't know if I could handle that, you know. It's important to know your place in society. To know where you fit in. And how valuable everyone is into the entire system. So, intelligence is a gift that was given to us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All knowledge comes from Him. The fact that humans were able to come up with plumbing, that we had the brain for it, and to stick by it, and create entire trades, is remarkable. I really hope that more people can see how valuable men are and how plumbers are extremely valuable. A woman is totally dependent upon the plumber. It's fascinating. So when you have a CEO boss babe in her office and she thinks she's all that, she'd be nothing without that plumber, because she wouldn't be able to be having her fake boobs, because if the hospital doesn't have the anesthesia, they don't have the gas lines, they don't have the way to wash their hands, wash their tools, whatever they're doing, the factories that make the hospital supplies, all of it, because of the plumber. Think about just the chain, how it all leads back to the plumber, how we all benefit from the system that the plumber laid down. Wow. Really examine it. In your old age, how you'll need a plumber. Really hardcore. The plumber who allows you to have your hose extension so you can water your garden, so you can give water to your livestock, so you can wash your cars. All of it. It's funny, the person who has the Bugatti, in order for them to polish it and make it look nice, they gotta have that plumber and make it so that they can have a car washer, so that they can have the water system to do that. The plumber allows you to have the luxury of washing your car, because they've created the infrastructure. So there's nothing wrong with going to the trades. So if you're a college brat and you're with a bunch of debt and you can't find a job, don't you dare think that you're better just because you have a degree in that than the plumber who went to a trade school. The unseen heroes of society that we only realize we need when something breaks. And then it's like, oh, you need a good plumber. Not a crappy one, but a good one. So treat them with respect. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless the good plumbers. And it's astounding when you think about how many systems, how many fields, occupations depend upon the plumber. That's pretty gnarly. That's intense. And you can judge a civilization's development by their water management, I'd argue. And if things go down in America, how filthy would things become without the plumbers being able to get the water around? Disease, pestilence, like you've never seen before. That's why some of these countries that don't have good plumbers, or people who care to be plumbers, or governments that want to work on the plumbing and infrastructure, their citizens have a lot of stomach parasites. It's quite sad. And people are ignorant and then poop in their own rivers, and then they get fish from there, and it creates all types of problems. So I hope you learned something. I'm going to do more different fields, because I think women have to be educated about who matters in society, and a lot of these arrogant social media influencers who have an inflated ego because they get to talk into a camera and get paid for it. You need to be respectful towards the labor class. So let me know what you think. If you'd like to support my work, you can do so by going to my blog, which is www.subscribestar.com/Milahan Archive. Hope to see you there.